Hey folks, welcome. Today I want to talk about Death Stranding. I'm going to be doing my best to to talk in short bursts because it is so dry in LA. Once you've talked for a little bit, your mouth just dries up like a prune and then you end up having to breathe and take pauses. It's irritating. But yes, easily this year, Death Stranding is my game of the year. I didn't think games could make me feel things anymore. It had gotten to the point where just everything was just so mundane. Games weren't taking any risks. And I'm not even saying the no Russian kind of thing where it's oh, we're going to shoot up a airport or whatever. I just mean literally risks as in gameplay that maybe won't work for everyone. And to me, that's fine. Everything doesn't need to work for everyone. I don't play football games. I don't play baseball games. I barely play golf games anymore. But I want these things to exist. I want people who like these experiences to be able to find them and to play them. I think that's important. I think that we need to not always be shooting for the lowest common denominator. We need to give people entertainment that actually fills them with something. Just not this whole vapid, empty experience that has no real value. Because that's all there really is anymore, I feel like. Most major companies are trending more and more to never taking risks, to never asking questions of their audience, to never expecting anything from their audience. The idea that anyone could get confused or anyone could get bored or that anyone could have a feeling other than just brainless euphoria is terrifying to the modern major company. And I find that sad because I feel like back when budgets were more reasonable and just self-contained, you saw a lot of this. Like in the 90s with video games, you saw a lot of really weird stuff. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. And if I wasn't just ranting off the top of my head, I would go and make a list of all these weird things. But even the things that weren't risky, or should I say the things that weren't even super esoteric, like Cool Spot. That was a platformer based off the mascot for 7-Up, I think. Maybe Sprite. One of those two. Doesn't matter. It was actually really fun. And it was weird. And it's one of those things where it's it shouldn't work. But it did. And I don't get it. And then you've got things like friggin' Jurassic Park, which was an overworld game, but sometimes you'd go into buildings and it was sort of like Doom, although the frame rate was terrible, but I love that game. And it just... everything was weird. Jade Cocoon. Did you ever play Jade Cocoon? If you haven't, you should. It is strange. Things that came out on the PlayStation and the SNES and the N64, there were so many strange games where people were like, what if we put a monkey in a sphere and rolled him down a hill? It happened. Ape Escape. Ape Escape is weird and beautiful and fun. But I don't feel like you see those things anymore. Not outside of the indie scene. Major companies, these major publishers, the ones that exist now after all these mergers and stuff that have happened, they're just like, what's the safest thing we can do? Even when you look at games that sort of do things that are a little bit creepy, horror games especially, they're still fairly generic. The things that they're asking you to do and the ways that they scare you and the messages that they send, they're all the same. You can just, the beat after beat after beat. And I think the reason that Death Stranding hit me so hard, partially at least, it's an excellent game even in a vacuum, but because I played it after I saw Spider-Man Far From Home. And Spider-Man Far From Home telegraphs everything. There's not a single moment in that entire movie until the credits. The stingers actually do take some risks. But there isn't a single moment in that entire movie where it does anything actually interesting. I mean, visually, it's a spectacle, but there's nothing that really captures your imagination and makes you think about things and makes you question yourself or question what matters or just improve. And I think it was maddening. I saw that movie, and once it was over, I realized nothing happened. From beginning and ending of the movie, before the credits roll, nothing happened. The way the movie starts is basically the way it ends. The little bit of progression that does happen in it is inconsequential to me. It could have been a 5-second piece of a better movie, is the one thing that actually happened. And so you fast forward to me after watching that, playing Death Stranding, where every 6 seconds I can't figure out where things are going next. And nothing is vapid. It's not that it's just some random nonsense for the sake of being nonsensical. Everything leads to something. Much like the name, the strands of the story intertwine, and everything is meaningful. And not only that, the stories that it gives to you, these moments with these characters, they are impactful and important, and in some cases utterly heartbreaking. And the questions it asks of you as a player, I think, are just amazing. It's something that I just feel like without somebody like Hideo Kojima, I don't know if we'll ever see that in games with budgets of this size. It's not the fact that this game has these sort of things. There's indie games all over that are making people question themselves and question the world. But when you get to a budget like this, where the motion capture is just mind-blowing and the world looks amazing, you don't see it anymore. He takes so many risks. And if you look at the reviews, especially the user reviews, you can see that. Some people just don't get it, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong there. Nobody's making a mistake. You're not a better or a worse person if you don't get the game. The fact that he was willing to make something that not everybody will get, I think is beautiful. And for those people who do play it and do enjoy it, it only gets better. Every half hour to an hour, you're getting more tools to do the things that you need to do in the game. You're being introduced to more and more characters who are deep and interesting, and their backstories are fascinating, and the things that happen to them and by them just keep you engaged until the very last second. And even when the credits are finished and you are standing in the post game, you want more. You feel like this beautiful experience, this moment you had with this game, this moment you had with this art, is something you don't want to have go away. It's sort of the opposite feeling I had with Metal Gear Solid 5, which is also Hideo Kojima. The end of that game, I could see that the funding had been cut and that Konami had just told him, get this crap out the door, we want money now. And you saw this really incredible narrative fall apart because he no longer had the money to do what he wanted to do. He just had to finish a product. But with Death Stranding, you can tell because he had full control, he was able to do what he wanted to do. The entire story doesn't feel like anything is rushed. Nothing feels like it's missing. And he doesn't even explain things right to your face. There's only one real moment of obvious exposition that actually kind of frustrated me, but it's at the very beginning. So once you get past that, the game expects you to figure out things yourself. It expects you to discover things. And I find that amazing, and I miss that. I love that it gives you emails and interviews and all these documents that you can choose to read. And if you do, you will learn something about this world. But if you don't, you as the player will have no idea. Because your character doesn't need to be told a lot of the things that you as a player need to know. People aren't going to walk up to you and say, oh, this is so-and-so that does such and such, when you know that person and you know what they do as the character. And I think that's great. I love when stories can do that, where they can be comfortable in the world that they've built and expect you, as the viewer or the player, to figure it out, to join in with this character and become equally knowledgeable. And because there's so much for you to learn and there's so much for this game to give you, it means that you can play it for tens of hours and just constantly be learning new things. I beat the game and I'm seeing emails after the fact where I'm like, oh, that's what that was about. That's what that meant. And it's amazing. And there's still room for interpretation. There's still room to have your own theories. And I love that. It doesn't, when the story ends and when the game is over, there are still parts of this thing where you aren't 100% sure. In many ways, this game is like, to me, what would happen if Stanley Kubrick made a video game, probably while on acid. But still, it's that kind of thoughtful weirdness that just culminates into this beautiful, beautiful thing that I feel so sad for anyone who can't play it long enough to experience these moments. And I hope for those people, they play something else somewhere and have that same moment. I hope everyone experiences what I felt playing Death Stranding with something, anything in their life, hopefully more than once, because it was a beautiful thing. And I honestly think If I were setting goals for my future, I would hope that my name will someday end up in the credits of a game as good as this. I think this is now, for me, the tier of what I dream to be a part of. This sort of thing, this piece of, it's art first to me and product second, and yet, as a product, it is astounding. It is fantastic. I have so much fun playing this game. So even if you took out the story, which would actually make me really sad, it's still really fun. And it's the problem solving that it asks you to figure out and the hurdles that it puts in front of you. All of these things, they jive together so well. The game knows where to take risks and where to be weird, and each time it does it, I feel like it hits it out of the park with no exceptions. And I'm not going to say the cliche of, nothing, it's not perfect, because nothing's perfect. But nothing that comes up when I play it that gives me any modicum of distress is a greater negative feeling than the amazing feeling that is playing this game. When I walk across the hills and the rain falls and a song starts up at just the right moment, it reminds me of what I loved when I lived in Washington, what I loved about being near nature, and just some of the most special moments of being alive. And in a game so much focused on death, I find it fascinating how much it reminds me of the beauty of life and the beauty of experiences that we can have, and how wonderful it is to be just here. Even as my back aches and that injury I got in 2016 continues to create a fire in my sacrum, even as that drains me of my energy and of my joy, moments like this and this game remind me that there's beauty in life and even in death. However, I'm in no hurry, and I really recommend it. I know this is just a rant, and I know I haven't talked about the mechanics or anything specific, but honestly, I don't want to. I don't want you to go into Death Stranding with any idea of what it is, because here's the thing. When I picked up this game, I picked it up for one reason, and this will give you an idea of how weird I am or how stupid I am, whatever you want to say. The collector's edition came with a 1-to-1 sized baby in a pod. And I thought, that is the dumbest, weirdest thing I have ever seen for a collector's edition. I must have it. And I bought it. The only other thing I saw for Death Stranding was one trailer in E3 a year or two ago, and I barely remember it. And I thought to myself when I saw that trailer, there's no way the game will ever make this make sense. I was wrong. And that's all I want you to know. That's all. If you are somebody who doesn't know about Death Stranding, I highly recommend at least renting it from Redbox and playing it for, say, 2 hours. Try your best to keep moving forward, to keep doing the missions, the missions for Sam. Not because the other content isn't great, but because I want you, before your rental is up, to see this storytelling, to see what is presented by this game, by the people who made it, and then compare it for the rest of the following year in 2020. Compare it to everything else you're gonna play. And it's gonna be sad. I almost guarantee it. It's gonna be sad. It's gonna be amazing how little is ever said in a video game these days, outside of indies. I want you to experience that. And then I want you to cherish the fact. This is what I'm hoping. I'm not telling you you have to do this. This is what I'm hoping happens to you, because I know it's what's going to happen to me. I want you to cherish the fact that you've seen what could happen and that you know it could happen again, because this game is selling very well. It's not selling Call of Duty numbers, but basically nothing does. That's sad, but such is life. And then once you finish, maybe you'll come back to the comments here and say hello and we can chat about it. Or you can join me in my Discord and we can chat about it there. But for me, it'll be nice to make this connection between me and you. This will be our own little strand. And I really appreciate if you do take my advice. And I hope that it is even just 10% as good for you as it was for me. Because even that little thing will be so amazing. And I think you will really appreciate it And easily, I said it, I believe, in this recording, my game of the year. It's one of my favorite games ever. If you had told me that this game and the content within, from what we knew from outside, media release and stuff like that, if you had told me that this was going to have such a strong impact on me, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But here we are. This is amazing. That's all I got. I hope your day is great. I hope your week, year, and life is great. Thank you for visiting, and have a good one.